The Scarlet Witch may return to cast more spells on us. Shogun and the Bear are Emmy darlings, and the final trailer for Venom: The Last Dance is here. All that and more coming up after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for information about all your favorite fictional universes. My name's Matthew Carroll, and with me today, we have Haley Hobbs. What's happening, Haley?
Oh, not much, except maybe some huge MCU news. Big deal,
maybe
no big
so.
Deal, I don't know.
And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, glad to be here. Glad to be hanging out weekly. It's a good part of the week, and always happy to be a part of Multiverse News.
Absolutely. And J. Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, looking forward to another exciting week of movie news discussion here on Multiverse News.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too. Well, we always like to start the show off whenever possible with a 5-star review, and this week did not disappoint with Presto the Magnificent sending in, "Hey Multiversers, I love your show so much. It's really such a great way to learn about news I didn't hear and get reactions to news I haven't." I think he might have meant I have, because then it inverts itself.
I just type what the people say.
Yeah. Thanks, man. Thanks so much.
Always appreciated.
I like your name, Presto.
I have to run a correction on myself because it'll really bother me in my brain if I don't.
Okay.
And Sherman Smith is the shout out on Patreon. He corrected the EGOT award. The G does not stand for Golden Globe. It stands for Grammy. He's right. And when I told him when I said it, I was like, there's a part of my brain that went, I don't think that's it. But you know what? When you're podcasting, sometimes you just roll with it. So there's a correction from last week's episode.
All right. I like it. Front page retraction right there.
Just a correction, not a retraction.
Let's not go wild here. That was not a retraction.
Come on now. I only got one thing wrong.
You got 3 out of 4. It's still...
Yeah.
We can leave it up.
Yeah, that's true. We don't have to take it down. That's a good point.
Oh, gee, thanks.
All right, well, let's dive into our first story here. Big news in the world of Marvel. Reports are here to give us hope that a Scarlet Witch solo movie is in the works. Though this is not confirmed by Marvel Studios or Kevin Feige, the news from Production Weekly comes on the heels of a Dublin radio interview given by Wanda Maximoff actress Elizabeth Olsen, where she indicated her love for the character and her willingness to return to the role if there's a way to use her well. With Agatha All Along coming out this week, the witchy hype is very real. Who wants to see Wanda hex us once again?
I mean, I think most fans of Marvel are fans of the Wanda character, especially with WandaVision and what it was and how it really took Disney Plus by storm. I think a lot of Marvel fans responded very positively to that character. And it's important to note what Production Weekly is. It's not a site in terms of like scoops or stories or anything like that. It's not like Entertainment Weekly or whatever, or just like a scoop site. Production Weekly is a database that people in Hollywood pay for, that work in Hollywood. And what it essentially does is it posts up movies that are in production so people can look for jobs. Like if you're on crew or electrical or set design, or you're just a talent seeking a job in a film or whatever, that's where you go to learn about upcoming films that you could throw your hat in the ring on. And so this movie, which was titled Scarlet Witch and had a log line about something very standard that you would expect about Wanda Maximoff, who's fought for the Avengers and against the Avengers, goes on a journey to discover her powers or whatever, kind of popped up. And what's interesting about it is not only is Elizabeth Olsen named, but Jack Schaefer is named, the creator and writer of WandaVision, and Agatha All Along as being involved in writing it. And so it's one of those things, right? It's kind of in the middle. It's like, have there been things put on Production Weekly that turned out not to really get any traction and get off the ground? Yes, totally. And that's the case. And so you can't really come out and be like, this is happening, unless Kevin Feige comes out and confirms it. And the fact that it was not confirmed at D23 or at Comic-Con or anything like that tells us kind of what we need to know, that if it is in production, it's not off the ground yet. But also, you have to keep in mind that like this is not just some random person on the internet saying there might be a Wanda movie or whatever. I mean, this is a legitimate site within the industry that is charting. Somebody put it in there, right, from Marvel Studios, that this was a movie that they were attempting to get off the ground. So is it on Kevin Feige's like must-do now list, or is it on Kevin Feige's like in a perfect world list? Like, we don't really know, but it's out there, right? They're at least talking about it. And Jack Schaefer, I would assume, has interest in being involved. I mean, to put Wanda Maximoff on the big screen is a good opportunity for someone in her position. But all that being said, I mean, I'll be interested to hear what you guys think. Like, if we do a Scarlet Witch movie, like, what direction are we going to take it in? I'm of the mind that Multiverse of Madness maybe sort of painted that character into a corner a little bit in terms of what we can do with her. We know that there's thoughts out there about whether or not she survived the end of that movie. We know that variants, of course, are a thing, and we can use variants to whatever extent we want to use them. We know that there's high probability that her son will show up in Agatha, which premieres tomorrow. So you've got all these things that you could use theoretically to connect all these webs together. But that's the most interesting part of all this to me, is like, if this is happening, like, how are we going to knit this character back into the fabric of the MCU when she sort of went on a killing spree across the multiverse and then dropped a building on herself? You know, like, what's the next move after that, right? And so that to me is the big unanswered here. But I think most people are in. I mean, I think it's a popular move. I think if Elizabeth Olsen is in and you're Kevin Feige, you're like, let's do it.
Yeah, I don't think that getting the character back in is going to be a roadblock. Now, doing it right and doing it in a way that we'll all be excited for it is different. Because I think that anytime you bring a character back from the dead, which I put in big quotation marks because that character very well may be alive somewhere, and we were speculating about it on MCU Cast that she may be even showing up in Agatha. Like, absolutely, if she could show up as like a cameo, or we could find out what happened to her. But there's also just a million ways you could do it with variants and bring that character back. We've already met multiple variants of her that look like her, and she could come back in all sorts of ways, even as like zombie Queen Wanda. You know, like they could do all kinds of things with Wanda. So I don't think it's an issue of like possible ways to bring her in, but how much do we want to see in a variant versus how much do we want to know the next steps of the character we've been getting to know for 5 or 6 movies now. And I think that's the thing that most people want, is to see what happens to that character that we have seen, like, started as a villain, came to the hero side, went back to being a villain not on purpose, and then went all the way and went to villain on purpose. And some people dispute that. Some people say she wasn't even a villain at all. So it's she's a more complicated character, which I think Marvel needs, and I think could be pretty great.
It should also be said, too, real quick, that quote that you read where she said that she would be interested in coming back, she did say that. But before she said that, she was talking about how they used Wanda, and she said something along the lines of they kind of lost their way in how to use the character for a little bit. And so I'll come back if they can figure out a way to use her. And to me, like, we can read into that or not, but to me, that's sort of a flag of like, I was not crazy about being the villain of that movie. And again, we're reading into something. She did not say that, but there was a very express, like, they kind of took it in a direction, you know, and maybe she wasn't necessarily crazy about that direction. So I think that's something to remember too, is she might not have been like complete. We don't necessarily know for sure, but I don't know if she necessarily was like, yes, please, like, let me tear up the multiverse again or whatever. Like, she might have kind of a different idea of what to do. So that's something just to consider too, is that it could be in the background of this whole thing.
Pivoting away from that hot topic of mom and if it's good or bad or whatever, here's a little speculation from me on if this rumor actually might have some legs, and that's that we know that Jack Schaefer left the Vision series. and we didn't know why, and it was clearly on good terms. And if this is something that actually might happen, it's probably to work on this, which I'm 100% here for. So let's all manifest in a very witchy way that's why Jack Schaefer left the Vision series. And I think we have plenty of loose ends that could bring Wanda back. And as far as like, yeah, she died, they're saying she died, sure, whatever, we didn't see her die, we saw poof red, and that doesn't count for anything really in the world of movie making. Wanda's character is a witch, and she's killed and brought back so many times in comics that they could absolutely do it in a way that makes sense. And if Agatha is a character they're going to continue to lean on too, her frenemy relationship with Wanda is such that she could help bring her back. I mean, there's so many ways to bring Wanda back into the MCU that would make sense. It could be that, it could be her somehow reuniting with Vision, or Vision bringing her back. I mean, we're getting RDJ as Doom. So is it really going to be the end of the world if we bring Wanda back from the dead? I think not.
Don't mind me, I'm just manifesting over here.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. I do find these reports pretty encouraging. I think I'm kind of in a similar boat as you, Haley. I recognize the import and the impact of Wanda's character. And I am reminded of some comments from Elizabeth Olsen that happened like probably about a year ago. I think we even talked about it on the show, but we did get the feeling that not only Elizabeth Olsen, but folks like Robert Downey Jr., they were kind of like bad-mouthing Marvel a little bit in retrospect. And yeah, I do remember some pretty pointed comments from her about the direction they took Wanda. But she's been making her rounds promoting her film, His Three Daughters. So in addition to this radio interview she did pop up on Jimmy Kimmel, where I may be getting confused about where she said what, but she did kind of seemingly confirm the character's death in at least her eyes. She talked about that red poof and the debris falling on her. She said, that feels kind of definitive to me, but I am totally open. And she kind of, again, her comments remained a little pointed and kind of charged. She said the impetus is on Marvel now to find some strong writers that have a good reason to bring this character back. And if they can do that, I'm open to it. But I look at the landscape and the future of the Marvel Cinematic Universe and thinking about the fact that we have these Avengers films on the way, we have Doomsday on the way, we have Secret Wars on the way, even the Fantastic Four, First Steps being separated in its own universe and its own timeline. I'm thinking about the mutants, and we've heard that, post the multiverse saga, it's really going to be the mutant era from Kevin Feige's own mouth. So I have to imagine that Wanda's going to factor in there, thinking about the House of M, no more mutants. It's been speculated, it's been postulated a lot, but that is my vote for how you incorporate the mutants. I'm all down for having the Fox X-Men participate in Secret Wars, but after that, I want a new roster of X-Men. I want fresh faces for a new era of mutants in the MCU, and I think House of M, no more mutants is the way to do that. You have to have Wanda around to accomplish that. So I'm encouraged, I'm optimistic, I'm manifesting.
All right. Television's royalty was out on Sunday, September 15th, when the 76th Emmy Awards took place. Hosted by father-son comedy duo Eugene and Dan Levy, the awards show mostly followed expectations with a surprise win from Gene Smart's show Hacks, taking home Best Comedy Series and Best Actress in a Comedy Series for Smart herself. Otherwise, Shogun and The Bear cleaned up, with the former setting historic records, including Anna Sawai and Hiroyuki Sanada becoming the first Japanese actors to ever win Emmys. The Bear did well for itself as usual, with its 11 awards, setting a new record for the most wins for a single season of comedy. Are we in another golden age of television?
I think we are. I think we're seeing that shows that are getting a lot of buzz from people who are watching them and that are being talked about on social media and in our personal lives are really strong. The Bear and Shogun are definitely two of them, but a lot of the other ones that won awards were important shows that people like too, like The Crown and True Detective Night Country and Fargo. All of these are really buzzy shows that people love. And even though streaming is a big part of this, a lot of these shows are both being released on cable and streaming. So it's kind of an interesting look, and a lot of that is FX and Disney, who ended up winning the most awards overall in the Emmys. But I'm excited for the future of television. I think there's so much content out there that we can get lost in the noise. We were kind of talking about that before the show, even just like, oh, I want to watch this and I want to watch that, but I don't have time, or it's too long, or I'll get to it eventually. I don't know what that's going to do to television, because then it's kind of becoming this thing like the same shows are winning things over and over again, like The Bear.
Yeah.
And we won't talk about whether it's a comedy or not. I think
yes, we
maybe
will.
yes, we will
Emmys-
too. Oh yeah, I'm going to
the
talk
Emmy
about it.
spoke when they didn't give it Best Comedy Series. I think that's interesting. But yeah, I think we're in a great time for television, and I think Shogun setting those standards and setting those records that it did, especially for Anna and Hiroyuki, I think that's really cool. So I'm here for more of it. I want to watch it, if nothing else, for Dan and Eugene Levy's comedy, because the clips I've seen have been really good.
Yeah, I really like the clip going around where they were making fun of The Bear for not being a comedy. They were like,
Yes.
in the spirit of The Bear, we will not make any jokes about it not being a comedy.
Yeah, it's funny.
Pretty good. I'm actually really glad that that Hacks got some attention, because I think that show's been really, really great. We caught up on that earlier this year, and it's a great show. Gene Smart's killer in it, and it's a really funny show. Still poignant. Still has a lot of like drama to it and interesting character development, but it is comedy forward. So I felt for all the other last year or two when The Bear kept winning Best Comedy, because I do think that is a really valid argument for it not winning Best Comedy, even though it's a great show and should win something. I think it should submit for drama, and I think it might win that. But it's I think Hacks is a better fit for best comedy series, and it's really, really good and really dealt with some cool stuff and deals with it in a way that isn't preachy, because it kind of like shows the BS of both. Like, it's about, I don't know, have you guys seen it?
Hacks, I have not.
I've seen the clips,
No,
and I
no.
love Gene Smart, but I haven't seen it yet.
It's great. She plays like a Joan Rivers type comedian who's kind of like washed up, and she hires a writer who's like a young, very woke, very like, I guess woke forward comedian, and like their struggles of them trying to like resolve the two types of comedy, and it's sort of like a generational passing back and forth of like calling each other on the bullshit of both sides or whatever. And I think it's a lot of fun and really good and constantly hilarious.
Yeah, I mean, you said we weren't going to talk about the Bear not being a comedy, but I want to talk about the Bear.
I don't
want to
talk about
because
it. I don't want the heat.
That has really dominated the conversation after the Emmys. Like, that has kind of been, and it's almost been like levels of controversial at this point, because, and you also said, Haley, that, people are starting to win, like the morning show and Hacks again for like best supporting actress, and like all of you're seeing these people who got the award in season 1 or season 2 of the show, and then they're getting it again. And Jeremy Allen White is another example of getting the award again in the next season. And that is causing a lot of drama in Hollywood at the moment, because people feel like, and I think is kind of valid, that this is stealing the recognition away from shows that deserve it. All right. So you think about someone like Selena Gomez, who was up for Only Murders in the Building, has never been recognized for her performance in that, right? Like, you think, like, there's a lot of these people who are kind of waiting their turn, and then you're seeing these shows win multiple times when it's the same cast, same show, another season, but still, like, that's rubbing a lot of people the wrong way. And The Bear has kind of become the center of that controversy, because it is not a comedy. Like, it is a drama. Like, full stop, it is a drama. Like, it is, writing a comedy is different than writing The Bear. If you're writing a comedy, you got to be like writing punchlines and jokes, and that's totally different than writing a series like The Bear. And so people who are in the comedic side of Hollywood in that industry, they're sort of taking fire here, and they're saying, like, look, like, we're being sort of elbowed out by a show that has submitted itself as a comedy, and the Academy hasn't done anything about it. And so now we're kind of losing to this show every year. And luckily, like you said, the Academy did give Best Comedy to another show, which is a true comedy, which I think was a good move. I think The Bear would have taken a lot of heat if it had won Best Comedy again, to be honest. Like, I don't know if it would have been great for it. Like, it sounds dumb, like not winning the Emmy for Best Comedy would hurt it, but I think it would have hurt it, because I think a lot of people are starting to kind of see that. Like, they're cleaning up every year, for the same show. Not that it's bad, it's a great show, but it's stealing a lot of the spotlight in people's eyes, especially from comedies. And so I think that that's a really interesting conversation. I think I do wonder like what that means for the Bear going forward. Like, will they consider switching to drama? Because they're going to be up against a lot stiffer competition in a drama. They would have been up against the Shoguns of the world and all of that. But still, it kind of belongs there. So it's a really interesting conversation, I think, about the future of the Emmys and like what do these categories look like, and how we diversify who we give these awards to and who we give recognition to and what recognition means, and not necessarily sort of putting the Emmy in the hands of the same person for the same role that they're playing every year, which is starting to really kind of backfire a little bit on the whole thing.
Well, yeah, when you've got so many shows and such a diversity of content out there, it's really hard to give an award to everyone. And it's not supposed to give an award to everyone. You're supposed to give an award to the best. And so I bristle at the idea of like being strategic with it to make sure you spread them around, but I understand what you're saying. I just think in general, the Bear's just miscategorized. But at the same time, I wonder in like Earth 2, where they didn't win Emmys at all, if the Bear would have gotten traction to be making a 3rd and 4th and 5th season, because the Emmy wins for comedy, which it probably didn't deserve, if we're being honest. It deserved them quality wise, but didn't deserve them in that category. I don't know that show would have caught on the way it has and be such a popular show. And so it's kind of interesting to think that like maybe that was a strategic thing to get some attention, which worked. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, I think it's all been pretty well addressed at this point in time. So I'll kind of avoid the controversy by just leveling some praise towards FX and Hulu. I've been banging the drum, but again, just to see, the two triumphant series coming out of this, The Bear and Shogun, both coming from FX and FX on Hulu. If you're not on the train, get on the train because you're missing out otherwise. But, The Bear is getting some flack for being relegated as a comedy, but I also do want to point out that Shogun had a little bit of a last-minute change-up when we did get the news that it was going to get a second season. That changed it from being a limited series to the first season of a drama series, which opened the door for it to win some awards as well as some other shows to get some attention. So, it's not all doom and gloom, and it's not all pointing the finger. Some of it can be copacetic and, celebrating the wins and successes of others. But the last time we talked about The Bear forthright and in a real way on the show, I had not seen The Bear. I have seen all 3 seasons of The Bear since, and I do have to say, I do think the categorization as a comedy is misplaced. I can understand why people would lean towards that, because the show does this thing where it ratchets up the tension to where you're like just feeling this anxiety, and then they break it with some comedy relief that does get like a general, like a legitimate guffaw and like, audible reaction out of me. So in that sense, yeah, I have had some of the best laughs that I've had from watching TV from The Bear in the last few years. But it's a shame that, it can't just all be celebrating the successes and the triumph of the show. It does have to come with controversy and what could have been or what should have been. But, I'll leave that up to other people to hash that out. I'm just happy to get such incredible and tremendous content. And yeah, it really is a golden age of television that we're living in right now.
I have a final line on getting the heat off the Bear, the heat of the kitchen off the Bear. This is not a new problem at the Emmys. Like the Emmys being awarded to the same people over and over, and then missing other people. And Steve Carell, and I did a quick Goog to make sure I was right, Steve Carell never won an Emmy for Michael Scott. An iconic role in an iconic series, never won an Emmy. And so it's nothing new, and it's kind of like, hey, maybe Emmys, you need to do an overhaul of your award system because some things are slipping through the cracks.
Well, and it puts the talent in a little bit of a bad place because it's not their fault. Like, it's 0% their fault. But, I saw a Variety article where somebody, I don't remember if it was a reporter from Variety or what, but they asked Ayo Edebiri and Eben Moss-Bacharach on the red carpet, about it. And they were like, oh, well, you're in this category for comedy, but it's kind of a drama. What do you think about that? And that's putting them in a really bad position because they shouldn't have to answer questions like that. It's not their decision. And they kind of gave an answer like, well, I mean, at the end of the day, like, we just make a show, like drama, comedy, like, kind of who cares? It's got elements of both. And the headline was like, drama, comedy, who cares? You know, and it's like they clipped that to make it seem like the people from The Bear were just like, you know, whatever, come at us. But that's not what they were saying at all. But it just like, I hope that doesn't become the conversation around the show, which I don't think it will. Like, I think this conversation will die out until next year. But I think it's not gonna you know, change the streaming numbers of The Bear or anything. But it just kind of puts these actors and actresses in these like weird positions sometimes where they get asked about it and they're like, I'm just an actor. Like, you know, I'm just paid to show up and do my role, you know, or whatever.
Yeah. All right, up next, the final trailer for Venom: The Last Dance was released by Sony. The trailer showcased Eddie Brock and his symbiote sidekick facing down Venom's homeworld, with comic enemy Knull at the forefront as the antagonist. Venom: The Last Dance is the final movie in the trilogy, written by Kelly Marcel, who is also taking a turn in the director's chair for this entry. Is anyone eating this up?
I might be nibbling at it, but I'm definitely not scarfing it down. I've been on record. The Venom movies are not my favorite, even within the scope of the Sony verse. I like the first Venom movie. Second Venom movie, Let There Be Carnage, remains to be the low point for me personally. And as I've seen these trailers, I sort of get encouraged. It's like, okay, it looks like a little bit of a return to form, a little bit of what made the first movie as enjoyable as it was, and it was really embracing this kind of odd couple aspect between Eddie and Venom there. So in that sense, I think it looks fun at best. I am concerned about Kelly Marcel. I wish the best for her, but it's a pretty thankless job, I think, to take on the third Venom film as your directorial debut in the Sony Spider-Man verse. But, you know, we had some reveals in this trailer, and, you know, I'm admittedly the most knowledgeable when it comes to Venom as a character in the comics. I am aware of some of his early ongoings, especially his introduction to Spider-Man and being an adversary there. But when he took the anti-hero route, I get a little less familiar. And then as if I'm not mistaken, the symbiote species has been confirmed to be the Clintar. I think that's correct. So we've got this character, Knull, who is supposedly the king and the creator of the Clintar. And again, it's a character that I virtually know nothing about other than that. He's the creator of the symbiotes. He's the creator of the Necrosword. Cool. But I'm bracing for impact because I'm probably going to get some flack for this. But the parts of the Venom character that I least enjoy are kind of around his origins, the whole 90s, like 90s, yeah, over the top, let's rage kind of character. Those were the aspects of Venom that never really landed with me, and I feel like Knull kind of fully embraces that aspect. So I'm open to it. Let's see what they give us. Hopefully it's an emotional swan song for these characters, and there is some emotional heft and impact there, but not holding my breath, but I will be there to check it out. I still think that Kraven looks like the better movie at this point in time, but we will see what we're saying come 2025.
I feel like your description of like the Venom 90s, yeah, let's go. That is Venom. Like that is like where Venom came from to me. Like that whole era of his introduction and everything feels like that's what he was.
Admittedly, he's not my favorite. I think writers have been able to tap into the whole dichotomy and pool that there is with, you know, Spider-Man having had the suit previously, and what does that mean for Eddie? That's the stuff that I'm more interested in. But yeah, I think he is fully steeped in what I was talking about earlier, the 90s.
Yeah, that entire post Spider-Man, what the symbiote did, Eddie Brock's is that.
Why do I think that's so funny? Like, I'm like dying over here. It's just like getting me. I don't know why.
Good. I think it's interesting. Like, I've been thinking about it a lot because there's a number of things like this, but I think the One Ring is sort of the one that goes to my mind first, is like the thing that is powerful that will corrupt you. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And like, I think that's the symbiote. And so while it's this, oh yeah, but it also has the element with Spider-Man. What is it? It's also the temptation of power, and I think that's a lot of fun to play with for sure. And so I think that is a bummer that we still haven't seen. We haven't seen that really, even in the Venom character that we've seen in the Sonyverse. He is not a corrupting force. You know what I mean? Like he was for Spider-Man and other people that have worn him in the comics and movies. But the thing that we talked at length about this on the MCU cast this week, so I won't go too deep, but the biggest takeaway for me with the Knull character being there is this version of Venom has talked about how they're a hive mind, which is true of I think the ones in the comics as well, where they transfer their memories and stuff are transferred through the symbiote, like whatever reproduction process and stuff.
Yeah.
And that Knull is their creator, but they've also said they're multiversal. So if that's the case, so Knull in the comics apparently exists in a space called the Void that is existing between the Big Crunch and Big Bang of the last universes. So like he's like outside of universes basically. And if that's the case, like that kind of sounds like the multiverse to me, like this. And if they're going to do that, and they've already talked about how the symbiotes are multiversal, it seems like this Knull might be a multiversal threat, or at least like, you know, reconnect Venom to the multiverse. And if they're ending the trilogy here and they want to use Tom Hardy's Venom in any other way in the MCU or the Sonyverse, it seems like a really a way to do it, or a time to pull him into the multiverse, which I don't know. It could be. We could see him in Secret Wars. Is what I'm saying.
God, I hope not.
See, this is what's weird about it to me. Like, it's the last of the trilogy. We are led to believe that the character is done, and they're going to introduce like the multiversal villain who is connected to all the pieces and has all this power and can destroy universes or whatever. Like, we're going to introduce this like major villain, and I just do not think that they'll end him in this movie in any meaningful way. I mean, what you saw in this trailer is probably the end of the movie. Like, it's probably a post-credit / end of the movie, like, you know, oh, I sent all my guys after you. Kind of like Thanos sending Loki to Earth in Avengers, and then at the end they're like, oh, you failed. I guess I got to do it or whatever. Like, that's kind of what I'm anticipating will be happening in this movie, and that's why we haven't heard about this character at all until this trailer. But what does that mean for the Sonyverse? Because we're going to remove Venom, I guess, from the equation. We know that, like, a little bit of Venom is in the MCU bopping around or whatever. And this means what I am afraid it means, which is that we're going to have to get Tom Holland involved, which is what I don't want. I don't want him to have to fight this threat, but you just know that that's what's going to happen, is that they're going to try to bring, like, we've talked about it at length on this show. Kevin Feige set the chessboard up to have a street-level Tom Holland's Spider-Man movie. Sony's not crazy about it. This trailer tells me Sony's winning that battle. Like, they're gonna try to have him fight their multiversal villain. This is their Thanos. Like, they see this as their Avengers Endgame type thing, and we're gonna bring all the Spider people together and try to fight this multiversal threat in between the two Avengers movies, and then you can have him back for Avengers Secret Wars. And I don't like it either, but I'm just trying to prepare you for the reality of what's about to happen.
Yeah, no, that sounds terrible.
Existential dread and that.
And they're gonna bring Miles
so
Morales
funny.
in, and they're gonna ruin Miles Morales in live action. Like, it's all gonna happen.
Okay, counterpoint. If they don't use Tom Holland and they don't really strongly connect it to the MCU, they could use the multiverse. They could create a live action Spider-Verse with another version of Peter Parker and possibly a Miles Morales and possibly a few Peter Parkers. Maybe Tom Holland drops into their universe at some point, but maybe not. And you could still do all of that without actually like setting it between the two. I was thinking the same thing you said, Jay, which is like, this absolutely, they show Knull in the trailer, which makes me think he's the antagonist of this movie, but it absolutely could be like a tease throughout the movie, like, oh, he's fighting all these things that have come to Earth, and then he's going to have to then, like, well, now I've got to go stop Knull from ever trying it again, and that's like the journey that the Sinister Six go fight Knull or whatever, which does sound terrible.
It's just it's a Spider-Man Mad Lib at this point. It's just like any character that's related.
And Jay Scotty mentioned that he created the Necro Sword, which was the sword used in Love and Thunder. So
Correct.
It's like, there's like little connections. It's also the sword that cut off the head of the Celestial Nowhere, that is Nowhere. So like, there's like a lot of little MCU connections to Knull that were just Easter eggs when they brought them in. But like, will this movie? It's just the whole thing with the actor who playing the bartender at the end of No Way Home being at the bar in the other universe with Chiwetel Ejiofor. Like, I am so confused by what they're going to do with this movie.
That's exactly what Sony wants.
They're not going to acknowledge the Chiwetel Ejiofor thing. Like, just you got to embrace that. Like, they're going to be like, what's a big deal? He's just this guy now. Like, they're not going to acknowledge it.
Yeah, but the Chiwetel Ejiofor is one thing, but then they have the actor who played the
guy
lizard.
From the Lizard, same thing. They're not going to acknowledge it.
Playing a guitar.
I think he's in this one, right?
He is, but he's playing like a guy in a van playing a guitar or something. But
well, the thing though, Amazing Spider-Man hit him with a thing. He was supposed the serum that turned him into the lizard was supposed to give him his arm back. So like, if he cured him and he put him back in his universe with his arm, what if he's now decided to give up science and he's off on the road with his guitar?
He's a busker.
Music was my first passion. I was just missing an arm.
Exactly.
I'm disappointed for you already when you're walking out of this movie. Like, I can feel your disappointment in the future already when you walk out and you're like, they didn't even acknowledge it.
Yeah, no, you're right. They probably won't. But it's just some weird choices being made. We've been saying it for 2 months now, but the Knull thing just adds to the whole complexity of how complicated and weird this movie's going to be.
It's so weird, too, to just bring him in at the end of a Spider-Man movie and he looks at the TV and he's like, that's my arch enemy. And then just to yank him out without ever meeting Spider-Man. Like, these are bizarre choices. Like you set up this whole thing like, oh yeah, he's here now. He's in the MCU. He's the next big thing. And then he literally just like, a piece of his body falls off and then they just yank him back out. And it's like, okay, what did we accomplish just now?
But that piece of the body's coming for him. It's worming its way. Okay. We have a Patreon you should check out. It's patreon.com/multiverse newscast. If you like the show, we it's $4 a month and you get ad-free access as well as access to our Patreon community where we do polls and you get access to the live replays that we take down after the live happens. So we would love it if you wanted to come over there and check that out and support the show. If you like it, we work really hard. We would love a tip for that. So thanks for checking it out. Thanks for everyone who already subscribes to that. Really, really appreciate it. Well, you guys ready to take a break?
Yes, I'm exhausted.
Yeah, we're going to take a nap and we'll be right back with lots of lightning round after this. Welcome back to Multiverse News. Let's talk about our Spotify poll, everybody. We asked which combination of holiday and character do you want a special presentation of? Speaking about the Marvel special presentations, and I also asked people to comment their own ideas. There used to be an option on Spotify where you could ask a question or do a poll. As far as I can tell, they took the question away. You can just do a poll now.
Yeah, now it's just comments. But what's cool now is we can, as the show, respond back to your comments on Spotify.
Ooh.
So, and we do. We try to respond to all of them or most of them. So if you comment on a Spotify episode, we'll try to, if you got a question for us or you just have a fun idea that we think is kind of cool, like we try to write back. So
awesome.
Go over and check that feature out. It's a pretty cool way to just kind of engage with the show a little bit more.
Yeah, totally. So we did have a few options here. Which combination of holiday and character do you want to see? We have Vision on Easter, got 14.1%. Miss Marvel on Thanksgiving, got 26.8%. Rhodey on the 4th of July, got 19.7%. Thor on Thursday, got 22.5%. And Groot on Arbor Day, which was my favorite, only got 16.9%.
I voted for that one too. I'm with you.
Yeah, I think that's my favorite.
I think I voted for Thor.
Oh,
I
we
think
all
it's funny.
too.
Thor on a Thursday. Like, I think it's funny.
Yay.
I voted for Rhodey because it felt the most appropriate to me with him having been Iron Patriot the 4th of July.
Yeah.
And even though he's been in the MCU for so long, I feel like he is one of the characters that is the most deserving of his own thing. Like we've talked about, is Armor Wars even a thing at this point or not? Like the last time he was asked about it, he said, "What's that?" So it would be a really good opportunity to do some, retconning and maybe salvage some of the decisions that were made around Secret Invasion. But that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah.
You know what would have been a good one was Gambit on Mardi Gras.
Ooh.
Oh, that is a really good one. Oh, man, good one. Good job.
Thanks. I'm leaving. Bye. I'm done.
That's my
Leave it
contribution.
on a high note.
Yeah, him throwing beads, but they're all lit up and they explode. Our listeners also sent in a bunch of options. So Bookworm Guy said Vikings from Hawkeye as a Christmas special. Who are the Vikings?
I'm lost on that one too.
I'm blanking on this.
I commented back on everyone except that one, and it's not because I didn't like it, just because I had no idea what you were talking about. So thank you for
Comment
commenting.
again and let us know.
I just didn't really know what to say. So
What were the guys who had the trucks?
The tracksuit
Tracksuit
guys.
Mafia?
Tracksuit Mafia. Yeah, I was trying to think maybe like auto-corrected or something.
Was
Yeah,
it,
I don't
was it
remember
like
what it was.
the LARPers?
Oh,
it's
there you
the
go. That's
LARPers and
it.
the-
That's
oh,
it. Yes.
that's it.
Good call.
Okay, now I'm
That's a-
really done. I'm really
Nailed
done.
it.
Yeah.
This is really nailing it.
I don't even like
this.
that show.
A resident Hawkeye hater with the Hawkeye
I don't
say.
hate Hawkeye. I hate that show. I don't hate it. I didn't love it. Yeah, we're not getting into that.
All right. N Kindle 2311 says, based on the MCU production schedule, a Captain America 4th of July or Fantastic Four Thanksgiving or Christmas both make a lot of sense, but my favorite option would be a witchy Halloween special presentation featuring Agatha's coven. Well, I have good news for you, N Kindle.
Does he not know?
I don't. Does Kindle know here? Yeah, Agatha is coming out starting Wednesday this week, which will be streaming live tomorrow. Wednesday.
September
on the
18th.
MCU guys.
If they listened and wrote into this show, I have to imagine that they're aware of that. So I'm wondering if they're referring to Agatha's coven that popped up in WandaVision for just that snippet. Maybe
that's
they
a
want to see
good
the
point.
backstory there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
well, what I was going to say is the thing they might not be aware of is the way they timed it out by putting 2 episodes to start it and 2 episodes at the end. They're finishing the series on October 30th. So
Right.
basically, we will all celebrate Halloween with the end of Agatha all along. El Nino says, I know they already did a Christmas special, but the MCU version of the comic one-shot Moon Knight Silent Night would be amazing, or Ant-Man on Father's Day. I like that.
I read this one shot before the show just to see what it was.
Oh.
And it's really dark.
Oh.
But it's Moon Knight, so. But it had like a very like Tim Burton-y Batman Returns kind of feel to it. So it's
Okay.
Ooh, that's
dig
cool. Andre Sparks says Doctor Strange and Clea on Valentine's Day. Ooh.
I love that.
Andre
That's cute.
Sparks is holding out hope for that relationship. And then Jude Holbert says Spider-Man on Star Wars Day, but he needs his Death Star. He needs to make sure to have his Death Star in the background.
The special
did-
presentation is just them building it.
I did make sure
Silently.
I did make sure to comment back that Star Wars does exist in the MCU, as
Yeah.
confirmed by Tom Holland webbing up Ant-Man and referencing the AT-ATs. So
You remember that really old movie with the walker things?
Damn, Tony, how old is this kid?
now Mace Windu in those movies, you got some problems
Yeah,
there. But you know,
That was from when back before Nick Fury got into the spy game. He was an actor in that universe.
they never made the prequels in the MCU.
Oh, yeah, maybe that's it. Jerry Root says, regarding the poll, a Miss Marvel Thanksgiving special makes absolute sense. Her family is already a high point of anything she is in, and we could get a quick team-up story with Captain Marvel before the celebration of the holiday begins. Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot.
Educate the ignorant here. Is that because does Diwali take place around Thanksgiving? Is that why?
No,
we're
I have
saying
no
that?
idea. I have no
Okay.
idea. I just thought it was a nice like family dinner holiday.
Okay,
and I just thought about her family. Exactly what he's saying here.
Okay,
what
enough.
Jerry's saying. I was just like we need somebody to sit around for a family Thanksgiving. And I don't know if they would celebrate Thanksgiving, but whatever. Dylan Frazina says Spider-Man on Memorial Day. I don't get that one. Why Spider-Man on Memorial Day?
Red, white, and blue.
He hung on the Washington Monument for a minute,
Okay.
I guess. Swung by that American flag.
Yeah, that's true. American flag. Oh, man. Sorry. I just thought about that. Just made me think that the American flag thing always makes me think of the fact that they had to change that scene because originally it was the Twin Towers.
Oh, in the Sam
in the
Raimi one.
original
Yeah.
Sam Raimi 2001, they had their first trailer is him webbing up a helicopter between the two towers, and then 9/11 happened. We talked about 9/11. We didn't forget, and it is the week of the remembrance. So there we go. Matt Leclerc says, I would love to see more Hawkeye and Lucky the Pizza Dog content.
Which Hawkeye?
Ooh,
I'd be down to see more Kate Bishop.
me too.
I think I'm warming to her. The more we see her.
I think a Hawkeye season 2 that's kind of not really featuring Jeremy Renner, but it's more Kate Bishop centered. Like, I think that would be a good move for Marvel.
Yeah.
Try to do more with that character.
Totally.
Because some of these guys, we haven't seen them in a while, and now we just want to get them all together. And
it would be great, like
gonna
if you
feel
could
weird.
have. It'd be great if you could have one of the spies running things, whatever. Possibly Nick Fury, but maybe. So, I'm trying to think of someone else from S.H.I.E.L.D., but it feels like they're all dead. I'm mostly just thinking
Yeah,
about
because they needlessly killed Maria Hill.
Yeah. But having her maybe he connects her up with the S.H.I.E.L.D. or the Avengers or whatever, and they're sending her on smaller missions or whatever. That'd be really cool. Okay, it was time to start the lightning round. The lightning round is where I'm going to read a little bit shorter stories, and we're going to respond to them one at a time. So one person responds to each story by claiming it with their name, but if you want to have one rebuttal per lightning round, here we go. Happy Gilmore stars Christopher McDonald and Julie Bowen have joined Adam Sandler to reprise their role for Netflix's Happy Gilmore 2, which is now officially in production.
The price is wrong, Bob.
I think people are a little nervous about this one. Whenever they're, I saw that Adam Sandler posted a picture of the iconic jersey that he wore in that film, and just kind of said hey, this movie's now in production, and there were mixed comments on it. You had people being like, oh yeah, that's cool for you, man. I'm excited for it. I love Happy Gilmore. But you had a lot more people being like, we didn't ask for this. Why would you try to ruin a good thing? That kind of sentiment. So nostalgia is a little fickle. It's you can kind of take it too far the other direction, where people kind of feel like you're coming after their thing by making a number 2. But I will say that getting the original cast back together, Adam Sandler seems excited about it. He was just on the New Heights podcast talking to the Kelsey brothers about it the last week, and I guess he got them involved in it, and he seems pumped about it. So I guess I'm open to it, and I would hope people that like that movie are open to it. But yeah, it's not necessarily, I guess, going to be a home run just because it's Happy Gilmore. It's got to be good for people to buy into it.
Absolutely. Paramount has released the first trailer for the Dexter prequel, Dexter Original Sin, and has set a premiere date of December 13th for the series.
Scotty, I watched this trailer, and it surprised me in terms of how effective it was with the energy it was creating. There was a pulsating kind of beat that was happening, and you were getting introduced to various scenes. So in that sense, I thought it was effective, creating that angst and anxiety that might, surround a young killer. But apart from that, I found myself struggling to identify who any of the characters were supposed to be, save for Dexter. I didn't know. I couldn't tell who Christian Slater was supposed to be. I couldn't tell who Patrick Dempsey was supposed to be. I didn't recognize any of the characters from the original series as younger versions of themselves. So that being said, that doesn't necessarily make or break the series, but it just continues to feel entirely unnecessary to me. And Dexter has just felt like a series of diminishing returns. We had a really strong first season, first 4 seasons, and then it just kind of like fell off after that. And then even the revival series, was it New Blood, that came out a couple of years ago, really strong, like 3/4 of the way through, and then dropped the ball on the ending. So I did look at the creatives involved, and I noticed that Scott Buck is not involved, so that's kind of encouraging. Maybe they will have an opportunity to course correct and do something that actually adds to the Dexterverse without diminishing it at all. We'll see.
It's kind of in a Game of Thrones spot a little bit, because like it didn't end great and people hated the end. And then now it's like, but they still want to do something. So they try the epilogue thing. That doesn't work. So now they're trying the prequel thing. But I mean, when it was at its height, like the 4th season of Dexter is still one of the best seasons of television I've ever watched. Like,
agreed.
Above, I would put it up against anything. But it just
Except for
fell
Fargo,
off so hard, and it's just like it did not end well, and I hated the end like everybody, and it just now it's hard to convince someone to come back to that. So it's kind of got that Game of Thrones energy a little bit, where it's like, how can we please come back? Like, how can we get you to come back? And they just haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah. Netflix has released a new trailer for adult animated series Twilight of the Gods from Zack Snyder, which is based on Norse mythology. The series debuts on the streamer on September 19th.
Scotty, I almost didn't watch this one because when I saw Zack Snyder's name attached to it, I was just like, "Oh, I don't have to watch this. Jay will come in and give us a take, and I'll be good. I'll be saved from this." But
no, I need a break from Zack Snyder takes. Somebody else has got to take it from here.
I gotta say, I was pleasantly surprised by this. I don't really know that I've seen Zack Snyder work in the animated world before, but I will acknowledge that recency bias could be a factor here. I just recently beat the God of War Ragnarok game on PS5, and a lot of the story elements and the imagery that were on display here, especially seeing Thor as a more unsavory character, really reminded me of some of the things I experienced in that game. And I just got to say, give me a little soapbox here. That is, those 2 games, the 2018 God of War and then God of War Ragnarok, are some of the best games I've ever played from a gameplay standpoint, a story standpoint. They're just incredible. But all that being said, I really like the animation style as well. It evoked Genndy Tartakovsky a bit for me, like thinking of series like Samurai Jack and the action that was on display there. I'm a fan of seeing stylized animation. Not everything has to be super realistic. I like to see what we can do when we, use our imaginations and, shift the perspective a little bit. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one.
The only other animated thing I know he's done is Legends of the Guardians, the
Ga'Hoole. That's right.
Yeah, which is early work of his.
It's a deep cut.
And I've still not seen it, but I saw Patrick H. Willem on YouTube do like a full breakdown of it, using it as a lens to view the rest of Zack Snyder's work. And
right.
It's one of my favorite Patrick H. Willem videos. Everybody check it out.
It all comes back to the Guardians of Ga'Hoole.
Yeah, all of it. Okay. Last week, the first trailer was released for Gary Dauberman's upcoming Stephen King adaptation, Salem's Lot. The film will begin streaming on Max on October 3rd.
Jay, I actually watched this trailer, and I thought it was effective. It was a movie that we talked about earlier last year because it was made, and there was originally a plan to put it in theaters, and then that was backtracked, right? Like, there was kind of like, well, this is going to be a Max thing. And there was kind of a back and forth a little bit about where it was going to end up. And it eventually settled on that it would be a Max streaming movie. And we'll see, but I don't know if that was the right move. Like, I felt like the trailer kind of seemed theatrical to me and kind of seemed like it might have worked, like especially in kind of this resurgence of horror that we're in, and people seem to be turning out to the theaters for horror as much as you would for a horror movie. I mean, they're not like usually box office explosions, but still, like, they do well for themselves up against the budgets, which are typically lower. So I don't know. I guess time will tell. It depends on how is it going to be reviewed. How are people going to be into it in the first place? But I mean, Salem's Lot is a big property. Like, people love Stephen King stuff. Like, I don't know. I don't know if it was. We may look back at this and think maybe it should have gone to theaters for a little bit before it hit streaming. But we'll see.
Beetlejuice stayed atop the box office this weekend, pulling in about $50 million to bring its worldwide total earnings to $263.4 million in its second weekend. Speak No Evil hit second place in its opening weekend, pulling in $20.8 million globally on a $15 million budget. Lionsgate's The Killer's Game, starring Dave Bautista, took in a disastrous $2.6 million. Whew.
Scotty?
Woof.
I mean, just accolades to Beetlejuice. It has been another one of these legacy sequels that seemingly can go the distance. You know, a great first weekend, and then you look at the second weekend here, $50 million. A lot of movies that premiere in September don't even get anywhere close to that. Look at Speak No Evil. It only pulled in 20.8, less than half of what Beetlejuice was able to do in its second weekend. So definitely continues to be encouraging. I think if the appeal is there, movies can perform really well in this time of year. Again, I'm thinking back to when, the It movies from Andy Muschietti came out. They were really good September releases here. But I do want to speak on Speak No Evil a little bit. I would recommend, if you have any interest whatsoever, to go check this one out, because if you're a fan of James McAvoy at all, he really delivers, and it's a tour de force performance. It might not be the most scary, it makes some changes from the original 2022 Danish film, but I, for one, found it to be incredibly engaging, and it's been one of my favorite things to talk about, and I got the chance to talk about it on Bill and Ashley's Terror Theater with Bill, Ashley, and then Mark Garkushka, and that was a real pleasure. So check that out.
Nice.
Yeah, it's awesome. Netflix has announced that Emily in Paris has been renewed for a 5th season.
One for me. Yay!
Finally.
I fondly refer to Emily in Paris as silly trash, which I very much enjoy watching. And so a lot of other people do too. So I guess I'm not surprised that it's getting a 5th season.
Awesome.
She must be on that extended work visa. She's been over there for a long time at this point.
Literally had this conversation with my friend this week, honestly, because now she's in a different country. I won't spoil which country it is. Yeah, it's like, seriously, what is this?
So it's Italy. That's what you're saying.
God, Jay.
I always say, it's like, where's the next logical destination if you're in Paris?
Jay ruined it,
whatever.
not me.
Yeah, Jay's fault. Deadline has revealed that Oscar-winning filmmaker James Cameron has purchased the rights to Charles Pellegrino's forthcoming book, Ghosts of Hiroshima. Cameron has committed to use that and the 2015 Pellegrino book, Last Train from Hiroshima, as the basis for a film he will shoot in between Avatar productions. It will mark Cameron's first non-Avatar film since 1997's Oscar-winning Titanic. Matt, that's crazy that he hasn't made any movies since then. I know that he is
I know. I didn't believe it for a second. I was like, I know this is on Deadline, but like, I gotta fact check this.
He's such a commitment guy. Like, he really does dive into a project and stick with it and make really amazing films that are like push the art form forward technologically and all this really cool stuff. But man, he's also just he's made some really wonderful films that just really competently directed, like, you don't have to spend 6 years under the ocean before you make each movie. You know what I mean? Like, I wish his output, it reminds me almost of like George R.R. Martin waiting on that book, like, it's just this idea that like he could. I'm sad that he's had a career that like has been this long. He's such a great director to go this long without making a different movie. Makes me sad, but he's doing what he loves, and I can't fault that. I don't know.
Hey, he saw that Oppenheimer box office, and he's like, "Break me off a piece of that. I can make a atomic bomb movie too."
Yeah, that's it. Apple TV Plus has canceled Time Bandits, an adaptation of a 1981 feature film by Terry Gilliam, after a single season. The news comes less than 4 weeks after Time Bandits completed its 10-episode first season on August 21st.
Haley, the Taika Waititi mediocrity tour continues, I guess.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
I don't know.
I never saw it, so I don't know. But it didn't strike me.
I don't think
no one else did either. Yeah.
That's why they canceled it like immediately after the first season came out. They're like, we've seen enough.
I was on Apple TV Plus last night and almost clicked play, but I just didn't get there. Like I literally hovered over it for a minute, and I was like, well, I've got some time that I know like my fiance's not going to want to watch this, and I've never even seen the 1981 film, but like, yeah, maybe let's check this out. And I was like, nah, and I went over to Silo because that's what Jay Scotty's been recommending. The long-rumored The Sims film adaptation has finally found a home and director. Amazon MGM Studios has announced that development has begun on a film adaptation of the long-running Electronic Arts gaming series. Kate Herron, known for directing the Disney Plus series Loki, will helm the feature from a script that she is co-writing with Briony Redman. Margot Robbie's production company, Lucky Chap, will produce.
Scotty, my interest has been effectively taken from zero to
hero.
Yeah, there we go. Zero to hero. Yeah, zero to Heron.
That's
too much of a he
did it. Good job, Scott.
That's a good one.
Why did I call you Scott? Because we were talking about it earlier.
Well, it's funny that you bring that up because when I first came into the Zencaster, I went to go type Scotty and I miskeyed it and it came into Scott, and like neither one of them said anything, but I was like, I'm going to exit out and come back in and correct it.
I thought you were about to tell us that you named your sim Scott or something like that.
Oh, no.
There's got to be a Sims connection.
I never played The Sims very much. I played it a little bit. I dabbled, but I've never been... I'm not real big into like the resource management games like Age of Empires, all those things.
Yeah.
Me and my brother played them and I dabbled, but he was always more interested in those than I was. But yeah, that being said, it really is the talent that's attached here. The fact that you got Kate Herron. I loved that first season of Loki. I was disappointed when I heard she wasn't going to be involved, but it did sound like a personal choice on her part for that. So yeah, Lucky Chap, Margot Robbie. Obviously, they've been doing great things over there. I think coming off of the success of Barbie, they have the autonomy to kind of, really choose the projects that speak to them and give them a platform to say what they want to say. So in that sense, I think this could go from being a Borderlands or what a Minecraft movie is looking like it's going to be to actually being something more in line with Barbie, where it's based on a product but can have something really palpable to say.
Yeah, and I'll use my rebuttal to say that like what made Barbie so great was that it was so self-aware. Like it knew like this is a toy, but we're going to like lean into every aspect of that and then like play with concepts of reality and what it means to be a toy versus a human and stuff like that. And that's why people loved it. And I think the material is there to do that again. Like the idea of like you're at a video game. I think Matt, you said this when we talked about The Sims being rumored as a movie. Like you're at a video game, you're controlling people's lives, but think about the world. Like think about you getting up and going to work every day and like you dealing with dating and dealing with friends and balancing relationships and stuff. And then think about like pulling the strings on a computer screen of people doing that. Like there's a lot of potential there, I think, if you can nail it. So if you're kind of getting that same Barbie vibe to it, like I'm all in. I think you could really do something really unique and interesting with it if you were self-aware and you really like leaned into the stuff that you could really do behind the scenes of the concept of the whole thing.
Sure.
It's also interesting watching, I'll use my rebuttal too, all the different people that spun out of Barbie as such this huge hit. Lucky Chap will produce... but then there's also, you hear like the director of Barbie's now doing this. And then you hear that like the Mattel is going to make this. And it's like, where is the secret sauce of Barbie? And it's like all these different groups that kind of came together to make that are now spinning off. I'll tell you that. Yeah, I don't think it was Mattel.
Hey, just wait for the next story in the lightning round. I threw a little surprise in last minute for you.
Oh, good. Let's do it. John Cena has signed on to star in Matchbox, a live-action take on the classic Mattel car toy line. Apple will distribute the feature from Skydance and Mattel Films. Sam Hargrave, the director behind the Extraction movies, will direct.
I mean, Jay, we just talked about it. Toy movies are all the rage, man. We got He-Man, we got Matchbox cars, we got Barbie, we got G.I. Joe and Transformers mashing up together. I mean, it's an age of toy television, and John Cena, Extraction director. There's bound to be lots of explosions and everything in between. So if this is your thing, then good hands, I guess. I don't know.
I just want to hear everybody's guesses on like what the plot of a Matchbox live action.
He's going to get like shrunk down or something and be like, you have to win this race to get big again. Or something like that.
I feel like they'll take it real street level and make it real like action heavy, try to take it super seriously, but then it could have like a very what's the best way to say, like that self-aware thing, like with Barbie, like almost a very sarcastic tone. I don't know. I could see that being kind of funny, actually.
Yeah.
What's it going to be rated? Like, that's a big question that needs to be answered. What's the rating?
PG-13. Because people want to take their kids to it. I mean, cars.
Yeah.
I'm struggling to remember what the big difference between Hot Wheels and Matchbox is. Were the Hot Wheels like not as much based on real cars and they were more for like flying on the ramps, whereas the Matchboxes were supposed to be more like accurate to real cars?
No idea.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. Hot Wheels is big right now, though. Like, there's a whole animated series for. I know this because I have 3 children. There's a whole Hot Wheels animated series on Netflix right now, and it's like one of their biggest kid shows. So it's doing a lot over there for kids. So the potential for a film like this, like, it has an audience for sure. The people will go see a movie about Matchbox cars. Like,
I think what you said, Scotty, is the truth.
Okay.
About the difference.
Okay. I knew the Hot Wheels were associated with like the orange tracks that you'd erect all around your kitchen to your mom's
Matchbox
dismay.
Is more real cars.
Yeah. Okay.
They're for only serious car people.
Well, it makes me the thing that's interesting to me is that Sam Hargraves from the director of Extraction. So like that makes me think they're going to do like more of a like you said, Haley. They're going to do a very like action take on this, but also like I feel like it's not Matchbox unless they're tiny. So like maybe shrunk down, or maybe it's like almost like a serious, not necessarily serious, but like maybe tongue in cheek kind of action movie, but sort of like Toy Story, where you've got like there's a kid playing with his race cars, but they're also living their own life in the race cars, like having some sort of like experience
kind of like the Lego
toys.
movie as well.
Yeah. Maybe. I don't know. It's fun not knowing anything, coming up with our own takes on it.
Yeah, I like it.
It's like this is what we would do in the pitch room. All right. Let's that's the show. That's the news we got. Let's go around and talk about what else people can. If you guys mind if I go first this week, because I'm really excited about this. My plug this week. This week is Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast. We will be covering Agatha. So if you watch this live, come right here to the YouTube channel, youtube.com/strandedpanda, and we will be live talking about Agatha tomorrow night around 10:30 Central, I think, or no, 10:30 Eastern, 9:30 Central, as soon as we can get it watched. It looks like it's going to be about an hour and a half of content tomorrow. It drops at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and we are just going to like knock it out as quick as we can and jump on the stream. So we'll be here to talk on the MCU cast tomorrow night. So please join us. We would love it, and just check out that show. If you're a listener to this show and you haven't checked out Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, I love doing that show. I love the MCU, and having fresh content that we're really excited about is always the most fun time for us. So I'm pumped. Please come join us. What about you, Haley?
You compare source pages with the MCU cast. We finished our Agatha All Along primer of the 2015 Scarlet Witch run. The last 5 issues focus a lot on the Witch's Road, and there's a lot of Agatha in them. So listen to those episodes and watch the show and listen to MCU cast and all the things.
Yeah. And Jay Sisson.
Yeah, weekly at Commute the Podcast. We'll cover 3 interesting things in about 20 minutes and a nice little package for your trip to work. So come subscribe, check out Commute the Podcast, and try to learn something new.
Awesome. And Jay Scotty St. Clair.
Yeah, it feels like we are officially in the fall season, maybe a couple of days shy of that actually being fact. But yeah, TV's back and animation is back with it. So Zuhair and I just put out an episode covering My Adventures with Superman Season 2. And looking on the horizon, I'm excited to talk about Vox Machina in preparation for Season 3 that drops October 3rd. We're talking about all of that on Animation Deliberation, the podcast that takes action, animation, and cartoons seriously, but not too seriously, wherever you get your podcasts.
Sweet. Yeah, check out all those shows, and we'll be back with more multiverse news next week. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.
Hey, thanks for listening to Multiverse News, or watching it, or whatever you're doing. Eyeballs or ear holes, whichever thing. We do this show every week, and we appreciate you listening. StrandedPanda.com is where you can find all of our podcasts. And thank you for listening. Check us out wherever you get podcasts. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, hit the little bell icon, whatever you have on whatever service you're doing. Rate us, like us. We're really thirsty. That's what I'm saying.